Welcome to Grief and Gratitude Podcast. We're your hosts, Mandy and Crystal.
This is a space for honest conversations about loss, healing, and everything in between. Each week, we share stories, perspectives, and moments that remind us that even in the hardest seasons, gratitude can still exist. Thank you for sharing space with us. We're really glad you're here.
Hi, this is Crystal and Mandy with the Grief and Gratitude Podcast. This is our 6th episode. Today we have a longtime friend of both of ours, Shayla Ruland, many years. Mandy said I couldn't say how many years, but she is also a small business owner in Winooski, Vermont, and is here to share her story of grief and gratitude.
Hey, Shayla.
Hey, Mandy. Hey, Crystal.
And so we can just say that we went to school together. So that's years.
That's allowed.
That's
okay.
years.
That's allowed.
Thanks for being here, Shayla.
Thanks for having me, guys. I wish I was with you two right now. We are all chatting together. But so I'm just going to, I guess, just get right into it. And my grief journey really began a couple of years ago. I mean, I've lost some friends, including Crystal's sister, Jen, who I was really close with. And I've lost all my grandparents and, some close family friends and that sort of thing. And, those have obviously all devastated me. But in February of 2022, I lost my mother from cancer. She was diagnosed in February 2021 and was given 3 to 5 years to live, lung cancer, and didn't ever really smoke, maybe very socially, minimally in college. Her oncologist told me that my mom was the healthiest person she's ever seen with cancer. And so we really thought she was going to beat it. Like we really just didn't think that this was going to be the outcome at all and that the outcome would be less than a year as well. I'm not going to go into the detail of like the cancer and everything because it's, your typical cancer story. And we don't, I'm just giving everybody some information to go along with the story. But so, even though her death wasn't a shock, really like the last couple months of her life, like we knew that she wasn't going to beat this. And we just didn't know the timing. But we didn't also know it was going to be that quick. And even though like she was in and out of the hospital, to us, it seemed like it happened pretty quickly. We did have a meeting with the hospital the day before she passed, which happened to be the day we had the meeting. It was her 65th birthday, February 6th. And they told us she had about a week to live and to get all the family here. And we called all the family, and my sister and I and father spent a good amount of time with her in the hospital that day. My dad spent the night. Me and my sister went back to my parents' house, and my sister woke me up at 2 a.m. saying, "Dad just called. Mom's not going to make it. We got to go." And I'm talking, we like got up in our pajamas, rushed to the hospital, sped, like ran through the hospital, got there. She had already passed by the time we got there. My dad had been with her, but I really believe that's how she wanted it. She just kept saying through this whole thing that my father was her rock. They were high school sweethearts together forever. And it was just kind of like, whoa, supposed to be a week and it wasn't even a full day. And she died literally 2 hours after her 65th birthday. So she died on February 7th, the day after her 65th birthday. And so we just literally sat with her for a little bit and just made phone calls saying like our family was literally getting up at like 6 a.m. to come. So we obviously called them right then and there and said, don't come right now. And we just kind of like went home and processed, and we ended up not having her funeral for a month later because of COVID. This all happened during COVID and everything was behind. And we also had family traveling from out of state and friends traveling from out of state. So her funeral wasn't planned for a month. So I kind of we just went back to, my dad's house, and I think I stayed there for about a week and with him, and kind of like we had, friends and family in and out throughout that week, and just planning of the funeral and all that sort of thing. And just, kind of, I don't know, in a daze, I guess I would say. We had a lot of support, which was great. And then I called one of my aunts, my dad's sister, who I'm super close with, who my mom was super close with. And I just said, "Hey, are you coming?" And she said, "Well, yeah, for the funeral." And I said, "Can you come sooner?" And she said, "Well, why? Do you think I should?" And I said, "Yeah, we need you." And she goes, "Okay, well, let me figure this out. I'll call you back." Within 5 minutes, she called back and said, I'll be there Saturday. I'm coming Saturday. I don't have a return ticket. You're right. Your mom would want me there. I'll be there. So that was really great because I just was obviously searching for the closest thing to my mom, right? I just was besides my dad and sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came and she stayed over a month with my dad, which was great. And she really just kind of took over our lives for us and organized things and helped plan the services and just helped with my our pets. I had an elderly dog at the time, and actually the night that my mom passed away, she went to get up and she fell just on all fours. And I remember screaming for my dad, being "Oh my God, I can't lose her too. What is going on?" And so her health actually declined over the next month greatly. But because I was grieving so much for my mom, I think I was in denial a little bit, and I was also just not, obviously, as you all know, like myself, and I just couldn't even think straight. So, bring her to the vet, whatever, try to patch it up, do whatever. Like, I think it was about 6 or 7 weeks after my mom passed, I got a call from my sister that the dog had had a seizure in our front yard, and my brother-in-law had raced her to the vet. So I immediately dropped what I was doing, called my father. We all met at the vet, and we made the decision to put her down. She was almost 15. So the four of us together, four of us together decided to do that. So that was like pretty hard. And I also think I just was still in some sort of shock from my mom, and still not processed that whatsoever. Just could not face going home. I went stayed at a friend's house that night, and it was really hard to go home the next day. But I did, because you have to. Like, sometimes people are like, how are you doing this? And it's like, you don't have a choice. You just don't have a choice. And then, so for a couple days was obviously pretty upset about that. Couple days after that happened, one of my very best friends, closest friends, he actually is the person I purchased the bar that I own from, and he literally taught me how to bartend. He taught me everything I know about owning a bar. He ended up passing away very unexpectedly, 3 days after my dog died. And I remember the night before he passed, he had called me to check on me about the dog. And I had said to him, if one more bad thing happens, I swear I'm going to jump over that Winooski bridge. I don't know how much more I can handle. Like, I don't know how much God can give me. And he said, I know, we'll get through it together. I'm going to take a day off of work next week. We used to like have days where we call it like, let's pal around. He's like, we're going to have a Kyle and Shayla day. Like, we're going to just hang out. Like, I'm here for you. I love you, buddy. Like, what are you doing tonight? I'll come meet you at the bar, blah, blah, blah. That was the last thing he said to me was, I love you, which I am. And that's where the gratitude of grief and gratitude comes in, because I am so thankful that that's the last thing he said to me. And I like can still hear him and, his voice and him saying that. And he did come meet me at the bar that night, and I saw him for about 2 seconds, and then he had left. And I assumed he just went home to sleep or whatever. And then I got that call the next morning that he had passed, and I, again, shock, immediately went to denial. Like, and again, my sister had to call me and tell me. And I mean, I woke up to, I can't even tell you how many phone calls and text messages, and everybody texted me saying, you need to call your sister. You need to call your sister. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my dad died. That's the first thing I thought. I was like that. And so I just was like, brace for impact, right? Call her, and I'm like, what now? And she's like, there's no easy way for me to tell you this. So like, I'm just going to tell you. And I was like, okay. And she goes, Kyle passed away last night. And I said, no, he didn't. I said, I saw him last night. No, he didn't. Like, you're wrong. Like, this is just a stupid rumor. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, like, I'm at his mom's house right now. They're asking for you. Like, where are you? I'm coming to get you. Cause I had actually spent the night at a different friend's house the night before. And it happened like kind of late night randomly. I had a friend call me who was in town. I hadn't seen her forever. She was house sitting up here. Was like, I'm house sitting, just randomly calling you, like, off chance you're around. I was like, yeah, come pick me up. I'll spend the night with you. And so like, no, like, really no one knew where I was, which, looking back now, like, that was, I like couldn't remember. I don't think I texted my sister or anything. So in that sense itself, a lot of people didn't know where I was that morning. So I guess that was like, adding a little bit to the stress. But I was like, no, I just like stayed with my friend who's house sitting right when Winooski like last night. So she's like, I'm coming to get you. Just like get it together, and I'm on my way to get you. And I was like, okay. So I'm in the car with her, and I'm like, I can't believe this. And she's just like, I know. Like I know. And like, just to preface, like, my sister and brother-in-law were also very, very close with Kyle. My brother-in-law owned the bar with him. I mean, the four of us took vacations together, and you did a lot of things together. And so, again, this is the three of us, and I live with them. And so they helped me take care of my dog as well. So it's not just really my story. It's the three of us went through the exact same thing. And which was, in a way, a comfort, like that, like my sister's really the only one who fully understood what I was going through. So like, I just wanted to be around her a lot, obviously. I just wanted to be around people who either knew my mom or knew Kyle really well. I just really, for that first week after he passed, I spent a lot of time at his house and with his mom and with his family and with our friends, and, helping where I could with that. And I just, so from there, it's really, it's been 4 years now since my mom passed. It'll be 4 years in April since Kyle passed. And I feel like I'm just getting out of the fog. Like, I feel like I've just been in a fog for 4 years. Like, I just feel like I still haven't been able to really think straight. I feel like it's so bizarre. And I don't know if like you guys had this experience too, but so much, obviously your life changes, right? But so much about like my personality change. Like, I used to be super organized, like a super planner, like super put together. And I am not, I'm the complete opposite now. I thrive in chaos now. I literally can't think past tomorrow. Like, if people ask me what I'm doing like 3 days from now, I lose it. Like, I'm like, I get anxiety. Like, I can't, like, I literally have to take things day to day still.
Yeah, your
So
identity changes.
it does. And like, and it like, it just was weird how I'm like, wow, my personality even changed, which is something that I guess I didn't expect.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize either.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, and everybody, you hear it all the time. Everybody grieves differently. Everybody handles things their own way. So, maybe this isn't something that happens to everyone, but like, and I used to be a really social person and, I do have a great support system. I have a really big world around me. Like, I have a ton of connections, a ton of family, a ton of friends. So I'm super lucky in that sense. But I was telling Crystal the other day, like, I only wanted to be around people who felt the pain I felt. Really.
Mhm.
It's like, I just couldn't stand being around people who are happy, like close with their parents and still had their parents and,
Mhm.
all of that. It just was
Uh,
really, really hard for
I
me.
totally understand that because a lot of times when I'm on social media, and I see things about like children getting transplants, heart transplants, and I go to, well, I get jealous. I'm like, why? Why did they get it? And why didn't Declan?
100%.
Why didn't Declan get it?
Yep.
How come they did?
I went through that. I still kind of go through that sometimes, not as much, but and I
I
think
just
that's
envy them, and yeah,
100 is jealousy and it's anger. Then you start feeling like selfish and stupid. You're like, well, it's not
yeah.
their fault that their loved one is alive and mine's not, but it
Mhm.
still doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just like you feel how you feel.
And it changes. It changes from minute to minute.
It does. Grief changes. So the other thing I wanted to share is that I am in grief counseling still, and that for our listeners, just letting them know, like, it's super helpful for me. And like, some people don't want to do that, and that's totally fine. I had actually been looking for a good therapist before my mom actually passed, and Crystal actually knows about this. I went through kind of a really hard time during the year that my mom was sick, but not just with that. I had some other personal stuff going on and really was, kind of had a little bit of a traumatic experience with a friend group. I was really, really not in a good place. So Crystal actually met with me a few times and she was trying to help me find a therapist. It took forever because it was COVID, right? It was taking
Mhm.
forever to find a therapist. So my friend finally went on Better Health, like put on a, application for me. And like literally the day my mom died, I got an email from this therapist being like, hey, I have these openings every Thursday. Da, 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 would you like to start this week? And I was like, my God. And
Can
again,
we start right now?
yeah. But again,
Yeah.
like the day my mom died, like what a sign, right? Because my mom was
Yeah.
also very involved in trying to help me find a therapist. And my mom was very worried about me.
Mhm.
So like it was just like, we talk about signs, right? And how like
Mhm.
we believe they're still there. Like what better sign could I get? Like my mom's like, I'm gonna get you the help you need to get through this, right? So I've been meeting with her for 4 years now and wasn't originally gonna be about grief. And that's kind of what it's turned into. And with everything, obviously we talk about other things, but like, I just want to share with you and the listeners a couple things that she has said to me that I have since told people who have since lost their parents, and that has been really helpful for me. And I guess it doesn't go with just parents. It's with anybody that you lose. One thing she said is what you guys were just saying about how grief is changing and changes every day. The 5 stages of grief, you don't go through them 1 to 5. You go from 4 to 1 to 2 to 5. It's not linear. It kind of bounces around, and it's like you said, it's different every single day. And the other thing she said to me is feel your feelings when they come because it is like super unhealthy to not. So like if you feel like you need to cry and you feel like you're in a safe space to do that, it's okay to do that. If you feel like you want to throw something, just go throw something safely. Go figure out an outlet for that anger, figure out an outlet for your pain, figure out and just feel it as it comes. Don't suppress it. And I have found that super helpful.
No, absolutely. I think what otherwise happens is you feel like, oh, I don't have the space or capacity to feel the thing, and you repress it. and it goes deep within you, right?
Yes.
Where people speak to it being on a cellular level, it being within you. It is, but if you are, and maybe it always will be, but if you're able to identify it and consciously manage it and work through it, the hope is that, right, you're moving through it and you're moving forward. Otherwise, it's buried and it can come out unexpected times, right? On the road, in a vehicle, stubbing your toe,
100%.
like anything random, you then lose it because you miss that opportunity to express it.
I really do fully believe that.
Yep.
As well. That's why it's good to get your feelings out and talk to people. Like I also said, I found it super helpful to speak to people who had lost a parent before. And I found it super helpful to speak to people who had lost, a friend. I think he was 45. I can't remember how old he was, but I think he was 45 when he passed. 44, 45, something like that. To me, that's young, right? Because I'm 45 now. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like 45 isn't a full life. And even at 65, my mom, like, yeah, that's kind of a full life. And again, Crystal and I were talking about this the other day. Like, another part where gratitude comes in. Like, I'm so thankful I had her for 41 years, but I also feel robbed still. Like, I have some family friends who, like, one of my dad's very best friends passed away. God, it was like, I don't even remember now, but it's 10 years at least. And his kids were in their 20s. I just think about that and I think about them and like, and that was a huge loss for our family when he passed as well. And I am, still close with that family and I kind of, turned to his daughter, because she'd been through it, and you kind of ebb and flow with your friendships when this happens too. And I was talking to Crystal about this as well. And I don't know if this happened to either of you, but I pulled away from some people that I was very, very close with because I know some people who haven't even lost anybody they love, which is like mind blowing to me. Right. But it's so hard to be around those people because they have no clue, like the amount of agony and pain you're in. And it's so hard to get a pep talk from someone that just has no idea. And I get they're trying to be a friend. People don't know what to say. People don't know what to do. And that's one of the biggest things around. People are always like, Lindsay, for example, one of my sister's very best friend, and you guys are also close with Lindsay. All of us have known each other forever. She used to say to me, like, I just don't know, like, what do I do for you guys? Like, I don't know what to say to you guys. I don't know what to do for you guys. And, she was like, my mom called her daughter number 3. She was so close to my mom. And, so she was really feeling it too. But on top of it, she's trying to manage how to handle my sister and I, what she can do for us and my dad. And, that's a hard place to be in too,
Yeah. And I think that's really great of her to say
ask.
she doesn't know what can she do rather than saying the wrong thing.
Well, yeah, you're identifying the right question. It's twofold. One, people should listen. I think people who have not had loss at all or a great amount of loss, it's uncomfortable for them. So in that space, they try and fill it with a pep talk. And not for the person grieving, it can almost feel annoying or frustrating or just not what we're needing as we're grieving. So one, to be able to listen and sit in that space with someone, but also like Lindsay did, knowing you so well, like to admit, I don't know what to do here. What can I do? How it gives you an opportunity, just like with your aunt, to be like, this is what I'm needing.
Yeah.
I don't have this capacity.
Yeah. And I didn't really know what I needed, but I know I needed her, and I know I needed Lindsay as well. But I think Lindsay even told me, I'm pretty sure, again, you guys, those first couple of years were a complete fog. But I'm pretty sure she told me she even read up on it. Like, what do you say to loved ones who are grieving and things like that, which is like, that means a lot. Like she's trying to be there for us. And it's not that she wasn't at all, but I just felt like some other friends, like you were saying, and I just wanted to shake them and be like, you don't get it. You still have your mom, you still have your best friend. Like you still have all these things. And, it just was triggering for me, I guess. And, and I guess I had to do what I had to do. And I just really, I pulled away. And I also was just like very disheveled, and I have always been very organized. So like that felt really chaotic to me. And, there were some days that I would cancel appointments or cancel plans because I got to have the good intention of, going to lunch with a friend or, going to this doctor's appointment or whatever it was. And that day I just literally couldn't do it. Like I just physically could not make myself do it.
And we've talked about that before. on the podcast where I think it's super important to have friends and people in your life that understand you at any given moment. You might cancel last minute. I might be preparing to go out to dinner with you, and 10 minutes before I'm supposed to go out the door, realize I do not have the capacity to get it together and walk out the door, because grief, like the impact is strong. You can feel
stops you in your tracks. It really does
Absolutely.
sometimes.
Yes.
And it comes anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime. I mean, and I don't know about for you guys, but I've been talking to other people about this. Like I've had a couple actually close friends lose their moms. Like one lost his mom like 6 months after me, and then one lost his mom, I think maybe a year and a half after mine. And we talk about it a lot. And actually it's brought the three of us closer. But we always talk about our moms and how, like, I totally just lost my train of thought where I was going with. But
well, I think how you said you couldn't be around some friends who didn't understand, and we haven't really talked about support groups, but I know when I lost my son, I wanted to be around people who also lost a child, who understood how I felt. And even going there, even being at the group, it was still hard because, their son was 20. He got to live 20 years, and my
so
son
you're still doing that while
9. And it's still, but you can't do that because everybody is there for the same reason. They lost their child. And it's so important, I think, for people to explore that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people actually consider support groups as much as they should. And they have them online or in person, and they really are helpful.
Yeah, that is something I was actually thinking about before I went to bed last night too. It's funny you brought that up because I was just like, I never even thought about it really till this year about going to a support group.
And to be in a space exactly where it's just a shared space. You don't need to know all the details of the loss. You all know that you're all there because you've experienced loss, right? There's a kind of an immediate connection there. I think you both brought up, right, the kind of anger we can feel or jealousy if someone got more time than us. I think it's important for everyone to know that you should not take it personal, right? Like if someone is trying to help and they can't be helpful, and the person that is grieving responds in a way that, right, where you didn't do it right, you didn't hit the mark, don't take it personal. People grieving, we are managing so much internally that we might become jealous, we might become angry, we might back off, we might have to end a friendship at that time. And it's not that you are not worthy, you're just not it for us in that moment, because we have to literally survive through our grief.
And things change over years.
That is true too. Yeah.
Can I ask you, because you're sharing a story of losing a parent, right? Losing your mother, but you also had to observe and be part of seeing your father, who's your father, right? And a protector in many ways, right? I know your dad, he's fabulous. And he now has lost his person, like you said, his high school sweetheart. How, on top of experiencing your own grief, like what was that like for you, observing your father in such a state of grief?
I mean, it was obviously really hard. And that was actually one of the reasons I called my Aunt Lisa, because my dad and Aunt Lisa are very close. And again, like, she was just like the closest thing I can think of next to my mom. Like who can be around me right now that like understands and who will make me feel like I'm loved and cared for. You know what I mean? And I knew she would do that for him as well. And I didn't even ask him about Lisa. I didn't tell him about Lisa. I made the call on my own. And when she called me back, I walked into the kitchen. I remember there was a bunch of people there dropping off food and, checking in on us. And I said, "Hey, I got to tell you something." And he goes, "What?" I go, "I called Aunt Lisa." He goes, "Yeah, what'd she have to say?" I said, "Well, she's coming." He's like, "Yeah, for the services." I said, "No, she's coming on Saturday and staying a while." And he just looked at me and goes, "Good." Like he would have never, I don't think, made that phone call on his own. And I don't even think he knew at the time that he needed her. But like after, coming home in the morning after my mom passed, and, I don't know, I think she passed at 2 something. We got home probably 3 or 4 something in the morning. And, what are we going to do? It's 4 in the morning. So we all just kind of go into our own rooms and lay down and just lay there and process. Right. And, just to really hear how upset he was and hear him crying for the next room, it's heartbreaking. And, yeah, I'm sad for him. I'm sad for my sister. I'm sad for me. I'm sad for, all the people that knew my mom. Just to give the listeners some, you two know my mom or knew my mom. But just to give the listeners some like kind of context, like my mom was a really great person. Like everybody loved my mom. And I know a lot of people say that, but like I never heard anybody say anything bad about my mom. And her funeral was pretty packed. And we had people traveling from all over the East Coast. And she worked in, the mortgage and real estate industry all of her life. And so she had a lot of connections there. And so a lot of them, um, came to her services, so she had a very big circle, a huge circle from college girlfriends to high school friends still to my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family are both really big families. Um, you know, to the friends that she's met along the way, to all of the friends we have out at our summer camp. It just, work friends. She was also on the board for Rebuilding Together, which is like Habitat for Humanity. And so she did a lot of good work through them. And we've actually continued doing work through them. I do a golf tournament every year for the Rebuilding Together in my mom's name. And they started a day called Dodie's Day. My mom's name was Dodie, where they go and, do whatever they need to do. Like whether it's putting a wheelchair ramp on someone's house so that they can live in their house and don't have to move, or it's repainting someone's house, or like we went and fixed up like an elderly person's yard and my dad fixed their fence. And so we raised money to, do projects for people who have less than us that need these things done in order to just live in their space. And so my mom was a huge part of that. So they designated a day for her once a year where we go and do all those things. And I raise money for that every year. So, that part of it is great because it's like I feel like we're carrying on something of her every year, and I know that like no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say when you say your mom was great, I can't even put it into your words. Your mom, from knowing her, right? I think I met her, I was 13 years old, and through the years, right? Years and years would go by and she would see you and she would make you feel so seen and heard and important and valuable. Everyone who connected
she
with,
was
she
a cool
had
mom.
Oh, she was so cool.
You guys remember we used to always be in my basement? My house was like the place to hang out. Like my mom had all the snacks from Costco and she loved it, but she always wanted us there. And she's like, invite whoever you want. You can have a sleepover. I feel better knowing you guys are all here and safe. And, like she just like loved having my friends around. And I remember my friends in high school would like confide in her and tell her all this stuff. And then they'd tell her stuff about me and who I was dating or what I did or whatever. And I'd be like, oh my God, why are you telling my mom this? And they're like, because we can't talk to our own moms about it. Like your mom's so cool. You have no idea. And like, at the time you don't realize how cool your mom really is. And now looking back, I'm like, I like legitimately had the best mother in the world. Like I can't even she just did so much for us and she loved us so much. And my cousin said to me, maybe a year or so ago, we were out to lunch. We were talking about my mom, and she goes, Shayla, I think your mom loved you guys so much and loved everybody so much. And I think that she kind of maybe knew she was leaving the world early, and that's why she gave so much love out whenever she was around people. She's like, she just really, and she said the same thing. She just made you feel loved, and she just made you feel safe. And that was the other thing that Chris and I were talking about that I wanted to kind of bring up was that my mom was my safe place. Obviously, most people, their parents are like, everybody has a different relationship with their parents. But, besides my sister, really Kyle was my other safe space. And I can't describe the feeling, but like the day he died, I just felt very unsafe. And it wasn't like in a way of unsafe, like where someone's going to hurt me, like physically. I just felt like I don't have anyone to catch me if I fall anymore.
Vulnerable, complete
besides my sister and my father, obviously. And like, I know that my friends would, obviously, but like, Kyle would drop anything and everything for me. And so would my mother. And they were the first two I called when anything good or bad happened, and to just not have that and lose it so close together, it was just so unfair. It was so unfair. And, I remember saying to my therapist, I don't know how to cope with this. Like, I've never gone through this much loss in such a short period of time. And she said, I think you need to realize that you're kind of like individual in that. And not a lot of people have lost that many people in that short period of time. And you start thinking about it. And I said to Crystal, my mom's best friend lost her dad a month before my mom died. So she lost her dad, who she was close with, and my mom in a month. My mom's other very close friend lost her brother 2 months after my mom passed. So I'm like, you think it doesn't happen a lot, but it actually does.
Well, we were just saying before we got on with you that half of the people that we know could share a story because everybody goes through grief.
Yes.
And at some point.
And as we get older, right, there's more opportunity for loss. And also, I don't know that our brains, unless you are born into trauma, right, a war-torn area, an abusive family, unless you're born that way, your brain is equipped and senses safety. As you mentioned, feeling safe. You had a mom and dad and sister and Kyle and closeness and safety and structure, organization, all of those things. And all of a sudden, boom, 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 right? So your brain, it like short circuits, like what it knew
really
it didn't
does.
know. And that's why you're hit so hard. Your brain does not have the skills, tools, capacity to navigate such a thing. And I think what's so special and benefited you was, one, your people. Like you said, you have a close network of friends, and you had this ability to know that I need something different. The grief counseling, the fact that for you were open and willing to go in that space and give yourself another protection, another piece of safety. Because it wasn't necessarily the friends you knew before, right? What they had was actually triggering to you. So you found this person with these tools.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's no shame in it. And that's why I want to, and if it helps someone else who's going through it, and even if, some of the things that I've shared that my therapist has told me help someone else, or it resonates with them, then I'm glad I did this. And I was listening to Mandy's story the other day in my car when I was driving. And I really, really, really like when I'm pretty sure you said something like you just wanted to be around people who had felt the same way as you or something along those lines. I was just like, yes, yes. I was like out loud, was like, yes, girl, me too, Yeah.
Who get it? It's just you get it without having to explain it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just wondering, I don't know what your faith was before all of this, but did your faith change at all after all of this loss?
Yeah, I mean, we all went to Catholic schools. So, we were technically all brought up Catholic, right? And kind of sometimes it was shoved in our face a little too much, I think. That kind of made us rebel against it in a way, for me at least. But I've never been a huge believer in the Catholic Church. I just didn't really buy some of the stuff, I guess. That's a whole different story for another day. But I mean, I definitely believe in God or a spiritual whatever. But my mom was very when I say my mom was very spiritual, she wasn't, but she wasn't sitting there with crystals and, doing all of however you imagine, it's very spiritual. My mom was spiritual in a way that she connected. She very much believed in the afterlife. She very much believed in signs. She always talked about it. And my mom also had this kind of, I don't want to say psychic ability or anything, but when someone had died somewhere, my mom would walk into a house and feel it. She'd be like, okay, someone died here, but it's fine. It's good vibes. And my sister and her were my sister worked for her for a bit, and they were going to look at a house with my uncle for something. And I can't remember if it was for the mortgage side of things, the real estate side of things. My uncle's a contractor. Maybe he called them and said, come check on this house. And I remember a story, and I don't fully remember it. My sister would know because she was there. But my mom walked into the house and she was there with my sister, and she pushed my sister out the door. And my sister's like, what are you doing? And she goes, run. This is bad energy. There's a bad ghost in here, bad vibes. No, we're not staying here, So she very much was in tune, I guess is the words I want to use with that. And she always told me, Shayla, you have the ability of it. And I know you do. You're just not open to it right now. Because I'd always kind of be when my grandmother passed, that was really, really, really hard on me. We were super close, my mom's mom, and she lived in a nursing home near me the last couple of years of her life. And so I was pretty involved in her daily routine the last couple of years of her life, and very much involved in her health care and her medical information, all that stuff. And I just remember when she passed, I was so just devastated, like brokenhearted, like same, couldn't, like had to actually get on sleeping pills because I couldn't sleep. And my mom called me and was like, it's so hard for me to hear you cry because like I'm with my mom, but my heart's breaking for you too. And all of these things. And she's like, you just have to be open to it. Like she's here. She'll send you signs. And like, I think it was the day my grandmother died or the day after, my mom and I were sitting outside. And our family has a big thing with owls. My grandmother loved owls. Owl cookie jar, owl this, owl that. And there was an owl sitting in the tree. And my mom said, see, there she is. And my mom fully believed that. And so ever since my grandmother passed, my mother's side of the family has had this thing where we gift each other owl stuff constantly for Christmases, birthdays, anything with an owl on it. It's just like a thing. Owl towels, owl, statues, owl cards, owl pictures, whatever. Because it's just like it holds us close, and it was a way to like honor my grandmother, right? The day my mom passed, or the day before she passed, this is also where like the gratitude comes in. I was actually able to have a conversation with her and tell her everything I've ever wanted to say to her. Just cried, apologize for, being a teenager and taking her for granted and being mean to her ever. And, me and my sister were like, you really were the best mom. And she's like, that means so much to me. And she said, if I can, I'll come back to you as an owl. Look for me in the owl. And so it's like whenever we see an owl now, because like you think that it's something you see all the time, but it's not something you see daily, right? And forever I was searching for owls, searching. And then I did see an owl forever. And then a group of girlfriends took my sister and I to Lake Placid the weekend after my mom's funeral just to get out of town, which was very therapeutic. And that's like another thing I was gonna like bring up is if you have like a really good partner, a good best friend, or a good group of friends, like maybe like plan something like after the like if it's, we had a month to plan, but we had planned this to do this a weekend after the funeral, and it gave us something to look forward to. And I just knew I could get out of town and just kind of like relax, reset. And my sister had gone for a walk and she came back. She goes, she handed me like a card or something. She goes, look, it had an owl on it. It was in a window. So I bought it. She goes, maybe she didn't mean just like the actual like living owls. Maybe she meant like anything with owl, and I was like, oh, like that's a great way of looking at it. And like, so now my sister and I are like, a lot of our family are always like, oh my God, like those will send pictures. Like we just saw an owl and oh my God, an owl just like literally flew over my head. And, we always now are like, it's mom. Like I know, and this is another person I talked about. It's like, okay, do people believe this because they want to believe this and they just want to believe so hard that this person's still there? Or do they actually believe that there's another spiritual realm, right? Where these people are, and they are still with you, and they can still see you, and they can still be with you, but you just can't be with them. We really do truly believe now. And since I've also seen a psychic medium where my mother and Kyle both came through, and some of the things that, came through were said was just crazy. Like my sister and I were looking at each other like, there's no way he knows this. Like, how would he know this? Like, he didn't even get our names. You know what I mean? It's not like he could have Googled our name and seen the obituary or whatever, So it's also, I told Crystal, like before I used to be cynical, be like, okay, is this really true? Or are we just saying this to make ourselves feel better? Right. Now that she's passed, I have gotten some signs from her. I've gotten a few from Kyle, like not that many, but my mom was way more open to it. And it's so funny because literally I was talking to my therapist about it, like right before I went into the medium. And I was like, I know my mom will be there and I really want Kyle to come through. And she goes, why would you think he wouldn't come through? And I go, just really not his thing. And at the meeting, I was like, is Kyle, like after he came through and stuff, like my mom was talking and I said, wait, is Kyle still here? He's like, he is, but he's kind of in the back now. And he just said, oh, I'll hang out for her, but this really isn't my thing. And I was like, what? What? I just said that, so, then like certain things have happened. Like I got a tattoo for Kyle and he brought that up. And there's a shirt of his that him and I always I look this big flannel shirt. I loved it so much. I would always steal it from him, always wear it. Whenever I wear it, I'd be like, I'm gonna get that shirt back anytime soon. I'd be like, nope. And like it would go back and forth between us constantly. And he brought that shirt up. Like I didn't bring it up at all. And the guy goes, he's showing me like a men's flannel shirt. And I was like, stop it. Like not that many people knew about that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really do like now, and my mom would say even on her deathbed, like be open to it. Like I am stuck because I was like, I just can't believe I'm not being able to talk to you. Like you're not going to know anything about my life. Like you're going to miss so many events. And she's like, you can still tell me about it. She goes, I still talk to my mother every single day. You can still tell me I'm still here.
It opened you up, right?
Yeah.
To being open. I did also want to give you the space to speak to just Kyle and who he was, because I know he was such a close friend of yours, but just to let the listeners know, like, just a little bit more about him.
Yeah, his background and whatnot. Yeah. So I didn't meet Kyle until, you ever realize the older you get, the more you forget how old you were at a certain time or how many years has gone by. But I met him probably 15 years ago. He owned the bar then, and he owned the bar for 8 years. I met him around about the time he first opened the bar, and he owned it for 8 years, and I've owned it for 9. So I guess that he's been gone for almost 4. So yeah, I knew him for about 15 years, and met him, like I said. He had just opened a bar with my brother-in-law, who was not my brother-in-law at the time, who my sister actually met in this bar that I'm actually sitting in and doing this podcast from. So there's a lot of history here, in this bar with, Kyle and my family. But anyway, so I started coming here with his cousin. I was friends with his cousin. And my sister kind of, a couple years in, started dating the other owner of the bar, and they're now married. And we all just kind of became this big friend group. We all, in sense, we don't all really hang out as much. A lot of people have gotten married and had kids and moved away, and, as that happens. But there was like a good group of us that used to hang out a lot. And like the more and more we hung out, like Kyle and I was kind of surface friends for a bit. Like we just see each other, like we were in the same friend group. And then we would just hang out a little more and more. And then we just became closer and closer. And then like before I knew it, it was like me and him, my sister and brother-in-law hanging out a lot, and like a couple of our other friends. And, we would go on vacations together, and just, a lot of people actually, just to give you context, thought we were dating because we were together so much, but we were not dating at all. We just, I don't know. I feel like sometimes, you find some soulmates and friends, and I just feel like he was one of my soulmates in that sense, not in like the romantic sense.
Mm-hmm.
He
Like,
got
I believe,
you.
yeah, totally. He was like my person. And, just like I very much believe like Lindsay is the same way. And she's a female, she gets me, and I could call her at the drop of a hat. I know she'd be there. But he owned the bar for a while. And, before that, he was actually a really good athlete, very well known in Winooski, very, very popular person. I mean, I remember telling his mom when we were like preparing for his funeral, I was just like, he knew so many, like he knew everybody. It was crazy. I said, and him and I would go out to like dinner or lunch a lot, or go get drinks somewhere, or just do whatever. Every place we went, he knew someone. Would always stop and talk. How you doing? Hey, catch up. And Lindsay actually said this once, and I didn't ever realize it until she said it. She's like, he just made you feel important. Like Kyle would ask you questions about yourself, and like, great, like support, like cheerleader for everybody, and just like, and he didn't think that a lot of people liked him. And I remember him like having conversations with that, especially after he didn't have the bar anymore. He's like, oh, I just feel like I had a lot of friends who were like friends with me because I own the bar. Now that I don't own the bar anymore, like there's just kind of like whatever. They were surface friends or whatever. His funeral, just to give you an idea, was so packed there was a line outside during the whole thing. Like people could not get in. That's how packed his funeral was. And his mom was even like shocked. I'm like, yeah, no, everybody, like he was someone that everybody's posting. He was my best friend. He was my best friend because he made you feel like his best friend. Right? Like, and he just always, and he was always willing to help you out. Like he would give you the shirt off his back if he could. And he like helped so many people out. I mean, there was this story, and I wasn't there, but there was like this pool party, and he actually rescued a kid from drowning at this pool party, which happened, I don't know, again, years years, maybe 5 years before he passed. Maybe it was longer. I don't know. But it wasn't like it was 20 years ago. But that's like, and he didn't really like swimming. He didn't like the water, but that's the kind of person he was. Like he
He's
saw
going
this
to
kid
jump in.
and jumped in. Yeah, clothes on and all. I was like, oh my God. And like, I think it really was like, he really did save this kid's life. And so, yeah. And even his mom was like, I'm like, his mom and I were talking about it. We were like, he would have been just shocked at how many people were there. Like, I think he really would have been like, cause he didn't realize the impact he had on people. He didn't, and I hope he now knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just had one more question.
Yeah, of course.
You said that you're just coming out of the fog of
Yeah.
everything. Do you see more gratitude in things that you didn't before?
Depends on what day it is. There are some days that I really do, like, oh, I'm so thankful that, I talked to Kyle the night before he died. The last thing he said is, I love you. And, I'm so thankful that I got to sit with my mom and have the conversation, tell her everything I've always wanted to say. And I got that great closure with my mom. Like, that's a huge gift.
Mm-hmm.
I now tell people who are going through it, like, or have like, sick family members or whatever, I'm like, if you have the opportunity to say stuff that you haven't said that you want to say it, because that gave me a lot of comfort. in the days that followed. So yeah, there's definitely days I can see like, gratitude like that. Like, you know what? I was lucky I had a great mom. I was lucky that I had a great friend in Kyle, and I literally would not be where I am today without him or my mom, obviously. But like bar wise, like my career wise, like I would have never bought this place without like him. And, I originally started because him and I were good friends. He's like, you should get your bartending license, bartending here sometimes. You're here all the time anyway. And I was like, yeah, why not? And he taught me how to bartend, and I did. And then the opportunity came up for me and another girl who worked here to kind of take it over. And we did. And, he taught like the first year, literally any little thing that happened, I'd be like, ah, Kyle, what do I do? And he taught me everything I know. And this place would not exist without him. And I feel like he is still a big piece of this place, which is nice because I like feel close to him here. And then in the summertime, I live at my mother's camp on the lake. And that was one of her like favorite places. And I feel very close to her there. So I'm super grateful I have these spaces too. So like in that sense, yeah, I do feel grateful in those ways, but I'm going to be honest and say more days than not, it's the opposite. It's more of God, this is so unfair. God, I like just miss them and I don't cry as much as I used to for sure, but it's like there's still, I don't know about you guys, but it's little things for me. Like I was over at Maz's and like the nursery. My mom and I always used to go and get our plants together. And I'm like a really bad gardener. And she always used to like do my plants in the bar for me every year and plant things here, like on our back deck here, and like help me pick out my hanging plants. And the first year I had to go without her, I was on the phone with one of my friends who is really good at gardening. And I was like, okay, like she couldn't come with me. So I was like, just like walk me through this. I don't know what to get. I literally had like a mental breakdown in Mazas. Like I left my car and had to walk out. I was literally sobbing and people were looking at me like I was a lunatic. And it's just like for me, yeah, I find like it's like, yeah, on her birthday and anniversary, like this year, like I cried a little bit. Was it like a little bit different, a little bit easier, like in a way, right? But like everybody says, time is the only thing that heals everything. But it's hard. And it's always little things. It's just stupid little things that come up, and that's what breaks me. And it's weird. The big things I'm kind of like, okay,
Well, the big things too, like anniversaries, for example, we get to prepare ourselves for it. We know the day.
Correct. Yeah.
We know it's
Yeah, you're right.
coming. We
Yeah.
can go through this process, right? And like you
Make
said,
plans, do whatever. Yeah.
you're going through your day and all of a sudden, boom, like that's your thing with your mom. And it just kind of falls apart, right? For you. And in those moments, right, I think the grief is heavy. It's heavy when it needs to come out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I forgot to mention in like my first part of the story that I was going to share is, like the day or two after Kyle passed, I went away for a while. I went to Florida to kind of regroup, but we have a very good friend who we used to go visit in Florida. He lives in Florida in the summer and he lives here in the winter. And he actually used to work for Kyle and he works for me in the summertime when he comes up here. I think I said that the opposite. He lives there in the winter and lives here in the summer. Anyway, so I met him through Kyle and we all started hanging out a lot. And Kyle and I used to go visit him. And him and Kyle have known each other forever, like through sports forever. They're both from Winooski, and he's really like he's about 10 years older than me or so. And he's really like, I've never had an older brother. I mean, my brother-in-law is very much like a brother to me now, but Todd is also like an older, wiser brother, and I remember like he was one of the first people to text me and be like, call your sister, like immediately and then call me. And, we were in constant communication and trying to get him home for the services and everything. And he called me one day and I was having like a complete mental breakdown. And I was just like sitting in a parking lot somewhere and I was just ranting and raving. And I don't even remember what I was saying, but I was just like ready to literally just like unleash on someone. Like I just wanted to beat someone up. I just wanted to, like, I don't know. Like I just was like in this crazy space. And I'm like not a violent person at all. And I just wanted to hit someone so hard. And I'm on the phone with him and I'm ranting and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And, I this and that. And he said, Shay, I'm coming back for the services. And then you're going to come back to Florida with me. Like, it wasn't even like it was an option. He's like, if you do not leave with me, you are either going to end up in jail or you are going to be dead. Like you were going, like, you're spiraling. And I was like, you're right. And I was just like, okay, but then you start thinking like, well, what about the bar? Who's going to run the bar? And what about money? And what about this? And what about that? And, all these things that, you have to kind of plan. And he's like, they'll figure out the bar. The bartenders will figure it out. So we'll figure it out. Like your dad and your sister can help. And I think you need this. And I called my dad. Remember thinking I was going to tell him, he was going to be like, oh, that's an awful idea. And I literally was like, John thinks it's a good idea if I go back to Florida for a couple days after Kyle's funeral. My dad just goes, okay. Like, knowing like, yes, you need this. And it was really the best thing for me. And I will like forever be grateful to him because I don't think I ever would have come to that conclusion on my own. And like, I think it was a day or two after the funeral, we flew back together. I didn't have a return ticket. I was like, left telling everybody, I don't know when I'm coming back. I don't know what the deal is or whatever. And I remember getting there, and it was also a trigger for me being there because Kyle and I had just been there, I think, a year or two prior, and I hadn't been back since without him. And so, going there without him was really hard because I was like, oh, me and Kyle went there, or me and Kyle did this, or, we did this and that. And, just, he was just everywhere. Obviously, like, how it is. I don't have to explain it to you guys, but you just feel like they're everywhere and everything reminds you of them, especially like in the first couple months, maybe even a year after they pass. And so it was that, in that sense, it was hard, but it was great being with Todd. It was just him and I stayed with him. We had days where we sat at home and cried. We had days where we went to the beach. We just kind of did whatever we felt like doing that day. And I think it was I think it was good for Todd too. I don't think he'd like ever admit this, or maybe he doesn't know, but I think, he would have just been kind of there. Like, I mean, his parents live there and stuff, but all of his close friends are really here. And I think he would have just kind of been there alone, so I think it was really good for us to grieve together. It was like really cathartic, really helpful, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I think he did really save my life because and I'm not talking like I never, ever, ever contemplated suicide or anything like that. And I'm not saying like, I'm sure it's very easy for people to do that. And I'm not discounting that at all. I can see where people go, but I'm just letting you guys know, listeners know, like, it was never anything like that. I would never, like, I'm just thankfully in a place where I wouldn't do that. But it was just more so I just was just like, I needed an outlet of something. I just didn't know where to go or what to do. Like, nowhere felt safe here. Nowhere felt comfortable here. I just was like, literally just felt like I was like floating like around and not like grounded.
You needed a change in scenery.
I did.
You needed expectations to be taken off of your plate as well. When you mentioned you're thinking about money, the bar, like, guess what? That's going to be there.
It's all going to be here when I come back.
Believe me, it's going to be there.
And my bartenders were great. The ones at the time, they really stepped up and ran the bar for me. My sister and my father. My aunt was still, my aunt had left. My aunt had left at that point that Kyle passed. Anyways, just to give listeners like an idea of what helped me. In that moment, not everybody can afford to just jump on a plane and go. Like, I couldn't honestly really afford it either, but it was a one-way ticket and I had a free place to stay. And it was more like, whatever, I'll make money later. I gotta do, like you said, I gotta survive.
Absolutely. Because we're coming on our last few minutes.
Yeah.
I would feel bad not to mention your dog. I know there's some people, right, who are animals, the closeness, that connection and that loss, like to bring up that other thing. I just want to, what was your dog's name? And I want to have space. Luca.
Yeah. She was a yellow lab. And my parents actually got her litter mate with me. So my parents had her sister and her name was Sadie, and she actually died a couple years before Luca did. And eerily enough, Sadie also died from lung cancer. And I remember we were in the vet when she died, and I was like, lung cancer? No one in our family even smokes. Like, what? She's like, dogs can get lung cancer just like people can. And I remember mentioning to my dad after my mom died, I go, don't you think it's bizarre? And my dad's like, oh, I never thought about that. I'm like, right? Isn't that like, it was just a side note. It's just a very bizarre thing to me that I still think about. But anyway, so my dog actually spent a ton of time with my parents. At the time they lived in Richmond, and they had like 13 acres of land and a pool. And I worked at an investment company at the time from 8 to 5 or whatever. And my dad had a schedule where he was home a lot during the day, and he would literally go pick her up every single day, bring her up there. She'd run around with her sister all day. I go after work and pick her up, and her and my mom were like super close. And so my mom used to bring her for walks in the woods all the time, and she loved it. It was like literally that and swimming were her two favorite things in the world. Like, she would see my mom and just freak out because she knew she was going in the woods, So for me, like, that loss, I almost was like, okay, my mom needed Luca. Like, part of me was like that, but also part of me still hasn't even processed the dog really. And I think about that too, or thought about the dog, because obviously Kyle way overshadowed the dog, and it was just like, okay, I'm done grieving the dog now. And now I'm moving on to, you know what I mean? Like, it was just
you thought, right. And you had said to him, I can't do another thing from losing.
And he's like, we will get through this together, buddy. Yeah. Like, I'm here for you. And then And for it to be him, it's like the wind just gets knocked right out of you, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I still process the dog, but I do talk about her in therapy. And like, I do, obviously still think about her. And my sister and brother-in-law have gotten a dog. And I kind of made them get a dog because I was like, I had moved into my mom's. Basically, when I got back from Florida, I just moved right into my mom's camp on the lake. And I was just like, I got to just be out here for the summer, whatever. So I hadn't even been home. And as it got closer for me to go move back home for the winter, I kept sending my sister and brother-in-law pictures of dogs that need to be rescued. And I'm like, I cannot go home without a dog. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Like, we have to have a dog. Like, right, I think in August, I was moving back home in October. In August, they found a dog. So they have a dog now and she lives with us and she's great and I'm obsessed with her. So it's super nice, right, to have her there still. And it's also even better because I don't bear the financial responsibility of her and I get all the benefit, So it
Absolutely.
works out. And she comes out to camp with me in the summer and spends nights with me. And yeah, so that's great. And I also have a cat that lives at the bar and she is my therapist calls her my emotional support animal because she's literally like, she makes me so happy. And I've never been a cat person, but I gotta just put that out there. Like, animals, when you're experiencing grief, I think animals do a world of good for you if you're an animal person. And if you're not, that's fine too. But I really think
Absolutely.
that their unconditional love is just insane, really, if you think about it,
And they don't talk. They don't try and fix things
They
for
just love
you.
you and
They're
they
just,
know, like, and I swear they know when you're down and they know,
yes,
so
they sense it.
that's also been really helpful for me too.
Well, I want to say, Shayla, thank you so much for sharing this space with us and sharing your experience and just being an amazing friend in person. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm like glad I did it. It feels, good to talk about it. And I hope that anything I said can help even just one person.
Consider being a supporter of the show by downloading episodes, subscribing to the podcast, or clicking the support link in the show notes. You can also leave a 5-star review wherever you listen. If you would like to share your story, please message the Facebook or Instagram page. You can also email griefandgratitudepodcast@gmail.com. Tune in next Monday for an all-new episode. This podcast was created to honor the memory of Declan Shaw ONeil and Jennifer Lynn Berry.